When I was 13 years old, I went camping with my school. When I arrived, I noticed the camping spot was just some tents in a dark and creepy forest. The tents were small, and we had to share a tent with 12 others. I liked the activities we did. We built a boat, we played football, and we roasted marshmallows around a campfire. When it was time for sleeping, I chose the bed all the way at the back. I opened my suitcase and realized I did not bring my pajamas. I slept with my normal clothes on for the next 3/4 hours. Until I was woken up by a loud rumbling noise. I slowly turned around and saw 2 tall creatures hunched over in my suitcase. Were they searching for something, I thought? I reached my arm out to touch whoever this person was, and I felt something harsh. If I were to describe it, I would say it felt something like old wood. After I had touched it, I asked who it was, and I somehow fell back asleep. In the morning, I was woken up by my alarm on my phone. We were not allowed to bring a phone, so I was sure I had turned my alarm off before sleeping. How could this have happened? I asked myself. I know it was not the other kids. I had not even told them I had my phone with me. Neither did I know them that well. They did not seem like jokesters to me. My alarm woke up most of the kids in the tent. They asked who it was, so I just acted like I was sleeping to avoid being suspected. We had to wake up around this time anyway, so I jumped out of my bed and I walked outside. It was really cold and I really had to pee. I walked around the tent and I peed in the bushes. I turned around and saw a dead rabbit right outside of where I slept. I called the teacher and he told me it must have been killed by something. He said he would call staff to clean it up. This day was not really that interesting. I mostly just laid in bed eating candy and thinking about what happened that night. It quickly turned dark and we roasted some marshmallows and we ate some pasta. 1 hour later, it was almost bedtime, and my teacher had told me if I wanted to go to the bathroom at night, I would have to go in a duo because the forest is very dangerous at night. I did not think much of it, but I chose my duo just to be sure. Then it was bedtime. I made my bed and I fell asleep. Again, I was woken up, but this time not by weird creatures, but by my urge to pee. I tried waking up my duo, but he did not wake up. I decided to go alone. Outside it was cold and really dark. I could barely see. I looked over to the benches and saw the same creature again. Looking at me, it was so tall and it seemed to have something in its hands. It looked like an animal. I stood still looking at it for maybe 20 seconds until I decided to continue walking to the toilets. I opened the toilet door and I took a piss. I washed my hands and left. When I returned, I looked at the benches again. The creature was gone. Was it haunting me specifically? No one else had seen it, only me. I grew up in a rural town along a river in Arizona. Growing up, there were rumors of a crying mother in a white dress that would walk the rivers at night looking for her children. There are different versions of the tale, but every version seems based on a weeping woman roaming the river's edge in search of her children. Many people in the area had claimed they had seen or heard her calling out in the night. 2 of my more adventurous friends wanted to camp out and see if they could have an encounter. So they went to a more remote spot where 2 rivers joined. They were in a very remote area, nearly inaccessible by car. They had to use their jeeps to get to this particular location. I'd been there a few times by jeep with my father, so I knew the surroundings. It was an old mining road with several abandoned buildings right near the locations. It's actually pretty creepy there during the day. It's in a box canyon with huge trees and a river very close by. It seems to be cold there at all times because of the tall canyon walls, tree canopy, and river. You have a sense of being trapped or vulnerable when you're there. So according to them, they arrive at the site and get all set up. They start a fire and set up shelter. It turns dark as they're finishing their meal. It's also rather cold, so they decide to get in their tents and call it a night. They're asleep for several hours when they wake to hear something faint in the distance. They hear a woman crying in the distance, but don't know if they're imagining it because of the tale. The crying grows louder and is now echoing off the canyon walls. This continues for apparently about 20 minutes. At this point, they're jacked on adrenaline. They're now pacing around and freaking out. Unsure of what to do, they hide in bushes just off the riverbank where their jeeps are parked. They sit there silently and wait to get a glimpse of the woman. The crying continues, and a light layer of fog begins flowing over the river. It becomes more and more dense. The moonlight fog amplifies the situation. At this point, they said they were about to lose it. They didn't know what they're experiencing. They heard the crying, but was that it? They both wanted to leave, but were so curious if the woman would come within visual range. They sat there for a few more minutes, scared out of their minds, talking back and forth, trying to decide what to do. All of a sudden, they see something in the distance. They described it as fog taking the shape of a woman. It kept flowing to them at the pace of the river. They said they let her get closer, but they couldn't handle it anymore. They both hopped on their Jeep and rode home. They left all their gear there and went back a few days later with family members to get it. Every summer, I attended a Christian youth camp for girls. Camp lasted 4 days, 3 nights. There were about 200 girls at the camp, and it was about a 1.5 to 2 hour drive away from our homes. Some of the camping areas were tent only, others had A-frames, and at least one of the camping areas had longhouses. The campground is called Ensign Ranch. It's a really safe campground, and we had a lot of fun every year. In the evenings we would tell spooky stories, pretty typical stuff for youth camps. I was 15 at that time. On the last night of camp in 1996, there were several of us girls on the top level of our longhouse. It was past bedtime, so we were quietly telling scary stories. I had told a couple, one with the help of a friend. Her name was Lily. After a couple hours of spooky stories, someone else was talking, and I was getting really tired and could hardly keep my eyes open. Then some of the girls asked me to tell one more story. So I start telling a story, making it up as I go, just the typical on a dark night, in the woods not far from here, type of beginning. Next thing I know, I wake up, lying flat on my back. As I'm waking, I realize I'm still talking, but once I became aware of my own talking, I couldn't remember what I was saying or trying to say. I was fully awake then. I finished by lamely saying something like, "They all died." The end. I looked around me at the girls, who were all staring wide-eyed at me. A couple of the girls were quietly crying, mouths open in horror with tears streaming down their faces. My friend Lily whispered, "That was the creepiest thing I've ever heard." The girls that weren't crying nodded in agreement. I said I was tired, and we should all go to bed. As all of the other girls moved away to their sleeping bags, I asked Lily, and another girl, Sarah, what I had said. I admitted to them that I had fallen asleep and couldn't remember anything. Lily and Sarah exchanged glances, and Lily paused before saying, "That just makes it worse." Sarah nodded in agreement and said she didn't want to retell it because it was that creepy. Now, at this point, if it had been just Lily and 1 or 2 of the other girls that were in that group, I would have thought they had realized I was asleep and were just messing with me. But Sarah was, and still is, a very serious person who doesn't have much of a sense of humor, doesn't like pranks, and is honest almost to a fault. So I went to sleep feeling unnerved but exhausted. A few hours later, I was being shaken awake by one of the adult camp leaders. She told me to gather my things and follow her. I sleepily and awkwardly carried my stuff down the ladder, then followed her outside. 2 other camp leaders were standing next to a tent. They told me to put my items inside and then come talk to them. Inside the tent were 2 of the younger girls that had been listening to the scary stories and who had been crying when I woke up. They wouldn't look at me, just laid there sobbing. When I went back outside to talk to the leaders, they said Lily had showed up at their tent with the 2 sobbing girls. The girls were crying and kept saying they wanted their parents to come get them. Lily explained about the scary stories and about mine being the one that made them cry. The leaders asked me what I had said. I admitted I had fallen asleep and honestly didn't know. The leaders said Lily refused to tell them what I said, and the 2 girls just sobbed harder the more they tried to talk to them. They explained to the girls that they weren't going to call and wake their parents at 3 a.m. and have them drive over an hour just because of spooky stories. Plus, we were all going home the next day. As punishment for scaring the girls, the leaders made me sleep in the tent with them while the leaders went to sleep in the longhouse. The girls cried for a bit, and then we all fell asleep. They were both gone from the tent when I awoke in the morning. To this day, I have no idea what creepy story I told. No one that was there has ever been willing to tell me any of the details. Several years afterward, Lily told me that she would randomly have nightmares because of it. The only details I ever had answered were, my voice sounded the same as usual, my eyes remained closed for the majority of the story, which creeped them out more, and the story was coherent and made sense up until the end when I lamely finished speaking. Again, if it had only been Lily and a few of the other less serious girls, I would know they were just screwing with me. But Sarah and most of the other girls that were there, including one that cried most of the night, even being a part of a prank on me just doesn't seem probable.